Why won't anyone give me a job? The alien doors kept closing. The space station Tavora Prime was a place of light, trade, and progress. Ships from 100 worlds arrived every day. Markets buzzed, holograms flashed, aliens of all colors and shapes moved with purpose. But one alien mother stood still. Her name was Valari, a single mother from the Zephyri race. She held her small child, Nilo, close to her chest. His little head rested on her shoulder, tired, hungry, and too quiet for his age. Valari looked at the tall glass building in front of her. A sign blinked over the door. Hiring, mechanics, coders, security staff. She checked her data pad. It was the 6th company she had visited that day. Maybe this time, she thought. Maybe someone will say yes. She walked inside. A robot receptionist scanned her ID. Its tone changed the moment it saw her species tag. We are not hiring Zafari at this time. Please leave. Valari didn't argue. She had heard this sentence too many times. She turned, quietly, and walked out. Outside, the sun of Tavora Prime felt too bright. She sat on a bench and pulled Nilo closer. His skin was warm. Too warm. He needed food. He needed medicine. She had no money left. Valari's people, the Zafari, were once proud warriors. But centuries ago, they lost a rebellion against the Galactic Union. Since then, the galaxy treated them like dirt. No jobs, no schools, no respect. Everyone believed Zafari were violent and cursed, but Valari was not a warrior. She was just a mother. Hours passed. She tried 2 more places. The result was the same. Rejection. Her legs hurt. Her arms were tired from holding her son for so long. Her hope was breaking. Just then, a small maintenance drone flew past and dropped a flyer near her foot. She picked it up. It read, "Looking for workers. No species check. Apply at Dock Bay 17. Her heart skipped. No species check? Valari stood, up fast and hurried to Dock Bay 17. It was far from the city center where small ships landed. Old cargo crates, broken robots, and dusty tools were everywhere. She found a simple metal door. A sign said, "Tauren Robotics, knock to apply." She knocked. The door opened, and a human stood there. He was tall, with dark brown eyes and short, black hair. He wore simple clothes covered in grease. He looked surprised to see her. Valari quickly spoke. "I saw your flyer. I can fix machines. I worked in old mines. I just need a chance." The man didn't speak right away. He looked at the child in her arms, then at her tired eyes. "How old is he?" he asked softly. 3 cycles, she answered. "He's sick. Please, I don't want pity. I just want to work." There was a long silence. Then the man stepped aside. "Come in," he said. "Name's Tauren. Let's see what you can do." Inside, the place was full of broken robots and half-built drones. Sparks flew as machines hummed. It was messy, loud, and alive. Tauren handed her a set of tools and pointed at a damaged loader bot. "Can you fix its motor leg?" Valari nodded. She set Nilo on a blanket in the corner and went to work. Her hands moved fast. She opened the panel, checked the wires, removed a burned-out chip, and replaced it with a clean one. Then she restarted the system. The loader bot stood up straight and moved. Tauren raised an eyebrow. "Not bad." Valari looked at him carefully. "So, do I have the job?" Tauren smiled. "You're hired. Can you start now?" Valari blinked in shock. She wasn't used to hearing that word, hired. "Yes," she said quietly, almost not believing it. As she bent down to lift her son, Nilo smiled for the first time that day. But deep inside the office, a locked file sat on Tauren's private screen. It had Valari's name and photo. The file was encrypted with 3 layers of security. Tauren stared at it later that night. "Just like the old man said," he whispered. She came. "I don't want pity," but the human had other plans. Valari stood in the center, of the workshop, holding a dirty rag and wiping oil from her hands. It was her third day at Torin Robotics, and for the first time in years, she felt useful. She had already fixed 3 loader bots, 1 drone arm, and an old AI scanner. Her hands worked fast, her mind sharper than ever. She didn't speak much. She didn't smile. She didn't trust it yet. No one had ever given her something without asking for something worse in return. Torin watched her from the shadows of his office. He had hired many workers before, most lazy, some clever, but none. Like Valari, she was quiet, careful, but when she worked, she moved like a machine herself, fast, precise, focused. He noticed how she always kept her son Nilo close. The child never cried, only watched the world with big tired eyes. Torin didn't ask questions, but he had secrets of his own. On the 4th day, Valari approached Torin while he adjusted a damaged hover welder. "I want to thank you," she said flatly. Torin didn't look up. "Don't, just do the work, that's enough." "I don't want pity," she added sharply. "Good," Torin replied, standing straight. "Because I don't offer it." He handed her a new tool. "This scanner is military grade, needs real precision. Can you fix it?" Valari took the device without hesitation. "I'll try." Later that night, Valari sat beside Nilo on a cot in a storage room Torin had cleared for them. It wasn't fancy, but it was safe and warm. For now, that was enough. Nilo coughed. Valari gently touched his forehead, still warm. She gave him the last of the herbal drops she'd hidden in her bag. Then she noticed something strange. A small screen in the corner blinked red, a security camera. She didn't remember seeing it before. Was it always there? Was someone watching them? The next day, things got stranger. Torin handed Valari a list of tasks: repair 2 scout drones, update their vision modules, and clean the targeting systems. It sounded simple, but when she opened the drone core, her hands froze. Inside the drone's memory logs were images. Her image, photos of her entering the workshop, holding her child, standing outside different companies, watching doors close. In her face, why would a machine built for combat have pictures of her? That evening, she confronted Torin. "You tracked me," she said coldly. "Why?" Torin didn't lie. "I knew about you before you came," he said. "Someone told me you would show up, said you'd be important." Valari's blood turned cold. "Who told you?" Torin leaned back in his chair. "A man who saved my life years ago. He showed me a vision of a Zafari woman holding a child and changing the future." Valari stepped back. "So I'm just part of someone's plan?" "No," Torin said, calmly. "But I think you're part of something bigger than you know." Valari didn't sleep that night. The workshop was quiet. Even the security bots rested. She sat beside Nilo, staring at his small face. He was more than just her child. She had always felt it. Even the doctors on her homeworld had said his DNA was unusual. Born during a meteor storm. Survived a virus that killed others. Spoke full sentences at 1-year-old. And sometimes when he touched her, her body healed faster. Was this what Torin meant? Did he know what Nilo was? Or worse, was he after her son? The next morning, Valari made a decision. She packed her bag, lifted Nilo, and headed to the exit quietly. But as she reached the door, it slid shut. Torin stood there, blocking her path. "You're leaving?" he asked. "I don't trust you," she said. "You knew too much before I even came." Torin nodded. "Fair, but before you go, look at this." He tapped a button. On the wall, a hollow screen appeared, showing a dark room. Inside, men in black armor stood around a table. One of them pointed to a photo, Valari and Nilo. "Find them," the man said. "The child is the target. Bring the mother alive if possible." Valari froze. "Who are they?" "Private bounty hunters," Torin answered. They've been watching you longer than I have. They want Nilo because of what's inside him. What is inside him? Valari whispered. Torin looked her in the eyes. Power, potential, something that scares a lot of powerful people. Silence filled the room. Then Valari said, "And you? Do you want him too?" Torin shook his head. "No, I want to protect him. And you. But I need your help." Valari stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. That night, as Nilo slept between them on the workroom floor, Torin unlocked a private file on his datapad. Inside was a secret message from a hidden channel. "The Zephyri mother has arrived. Phase 1 complete. Prepare the child for awakening." Torin stared at the message for a long time, then whispered to himself, "Please, let me be wrong about this." Her child collapsed, and the human did the unthinkable. The day began like any other. Machines whirred, tools clanked. Valari tightened bolts with steady hands while her son, Nilo, sat nearby sketching stars on a scrap of metal. But something felt off. Nilo was quieter than usual. His small hands shook as he drew. His eyes looked dull, his skin pale. He coughed once, then twice, and then he fell over. Valari dropped her wrench. "Nilo?" She ran to him, lifting his tiny frame. His body was burning. His eyes rolled back. He didn't respond. "Nilo!" Torin heard the scream and rushed in, grease still on his hands. He saw Valari on the floor, cradling her son, her voice breaking in panic. "He's burning. He won't wake up." Torin didn't hesitate. "Come on!" he shouted. He grabbed a med kit, slung Nilo over his shoulder, and ran toward the transport bay. Valari followed, her heart pounding. "Where are you taking him?" "To the only place that might help," he growled. They boarded a small hover truck and sped through the metallic tunnels of Tavora Prime. Lights blinked past. Security drones hovered nearby, scanning them, but Torin waved them off using old military ID codes. Valari looked at him in shock. "You were military?" Torin didn't answer. Instead, he slammed his fist into a panel, opening a hidden door in the wall. They entered a black tunnel, unauthorized, illegal, and forgotten by most. "This is a restricted zone," Valari whispered. "How do you even know this place?" "Used to run missions here," Torin said, his voice cold. "But now I'm breaking in for a child." The truck stopped in front of an old med lab once used for alien research. Its systems flickered, but the machine still hummed. Torin carried Nilo inside. "Scan him," he ordered the medbot. The machine whirred and scanned Nilo's body. Its voice beeped. "Vital signs failing. Core temperature unstable. Genetic. Code. Anomaly detected. Alert. This child is not standard Zephyri." Valari's heart stopped. "What does that mean?" The bot beeped again. "Subject DNA contains hybrid markers. Unknown source. Extreme energy potential stored in neural cells." Torin frowned. "That's why they want him." Valari sat beside Nilo as the bot tried to stabilize him. Tubes connected to his arms, a cooling gel covered his body. Still, his small chest rose slowly. Too slowly. "Why is this happening to him?" she whispered, eyes wet. Torin finally sat beside her. "You said he survived things no other Zephyri child did," he said. "That means something inside him is waking up, and his body can't handle it yet." She looked at Torin with wide eyes. "What do you mean, waking up?" Torin hesitated. Then he pulled out a hollow chip and placed it in front of her. A small projection lit up, an old man in a military uniform. "If the child survives past age 3, he may become what we feared, or what we hoped. You must find the mother. Protect the child. He will be hunted." Valari whispered. "Who is that?" Torin replied, "My old commander. He saw something in Nilo before Nilo was even born." Valari held her son's tiny hand. "This is insane. He's just a boy." Torin looked at her serious. "No, Valari, He's not just a boy. He's a symbol, a threat to those in power, a chance for peace or war. Suddenly the door beeped, warning lights flashed red. Unauthorized life forms approaching, the MedLab AI said. Torin stood. They found us. Valari's breath caught. What do we do? Torin grabbed a pulse rifle and tossed her a smaller stunner. We fight. But Nilo, she said, he'll live if we survive. Outside the lab, shadowy figures approached, mercenaries in dark armor with glowing red visors. One of them held a device blinking with Nilo's DNA code. Target confirmed. The leader said, capture the child. Kill the human if necessary. Torin and Valari took cover behind metal crates. This isn't your fight, she whispered to him. Torin looked at her. It is now. He fired the first shot, blasting a merc in the chest. Valari followed, stunning another. She moved fast, sharp, without fear. The Zafari blood in her came alive. Grenades flew, alarms screamed. Sparks flew through the lab. Then one merc broke through and reached for Nilo. Valari screamed, no! She jumped forward, using her body to block the attacker. Just as he raised his weapon, Torin fired a clean shot right through his helmet. Silence followed. Smoke filled the air. The mercs lay on the ground. The lab was ruined. But Nilo was still breathing. Barely. Valari crawled to him and cried into his hair. Torin sat beside her, breathing hard. She looked at him with trembling lips. Why? Why would you risk your life for my child? Torin didn't smile. He only said, because once someone saved me when no one else would. I owe the galaxy one act of kindness. That night, they moved Nilo to a safer hideout. An underground hangar Torin had kept secret for years. As Valari watched over her sleeping son, Torin stood alone looking at the stars. A message flashed on his wrist pad. The child survived. You know what comes next. Torin whispered, I know an a war. Enemies in the shadows, and a human with a hidden past. The underground hangar was quiet, dark, cold. Torin sat alone beside a glowing console. Metal walls surrounded him, lined with old weapons, stolen blueprints, and outdated bounty posters. The place felt like a graveyard of memories. Valari stood a few steps behind, arms crossed. Her eyes had changed. She wasn't just a scared mother anymore. She was a mother at war, and now she wanted answers. You knew too much about me before I even met you, Valari said softly. You had files. You had old medical data. You even knew where I'd walk. Torin didn't look at her. He just kept staring at the screen in front of him. Tell me the truth, she said. Who are you really? Torin sighed. Slowly, he turned toward her. His face looked older in the dim blue light. My full name is Commander Torin Vex, once part of the Human Galactic Strike Force. Valari's breath caught. I was trained to eliminate threats before they became real, he continued. We were the ghost unit. We didn't follow public law. We answered only to the council. He stood up and walked toward a steel locker. From it, he pulled out an old black uniform with a red insignia across the chest. It looked clean but cursed. I wore this when I helped erase cities, he said quietly, including Zafari colonies. Valari's fists clenched. You fought in the Zafari purges? She whispered. He nodded. Yes. Her voice cracked. So you were one of the monsters. Torin didn't argue. I believed Zephyri were dangerous. I believed we were saving lives. But one day, I saw a Zephyri village we were told to wipe out, full of farmers, children, no weapons, just scared people. He looked straight into her eyes. That was the day I disobeyed orders. He walked over to a rusted data pad. On it, he opened an old video. Valari stepped closer and watched. The video showed a small Zafari girl, running, crying, her clothes on fire. Her mother screamed for help. Then a voice. Neutralize everything. No witnesses. Torin's voice, His old voice was in the background. I recorded this myself, to remind me what I became. Valari couldn't speak. Her mouth was dry. Her heart was screaming. She looked at her sleeping son in the corner, wrapped in a blanket. How could this man, this killer, now be the one protecting her child? She wanted to scream, to leave, to attack. But she didn't, because Nilo was alive because of him. Suddenly, the console in the corner beeped. High-priority transmission. Torin rushed to it and opened a hidden line. A man's voice echoed from the speaker, distorted by encryption. Torin, they know, the hunters were only scouts. The real enemy is moving now. Torin responded sharply. Who? The Crimson Circle. They've put a price on the child's head, and they don't care who gets killed in the process. Valari stepped forward. Who are they? Torin's eyes were hard. They're not just mercenaries. They control illegal science. They buy and sell hybrid DNA. They believe Nilo is the answer to building the first controlled godchild. Valari's blood went cold. And they want to use him? Torin nodded. Or break him. Either way, they'll come. And they'll burn everything to find him. That night, Valari sat beside her son, but sleep never came. Images of fire, screaming, and war flashed in her mind. She imagined losing Nilo. She imagined him in a lab tied to machines, begging for help. She wouldn't allow it. The next morning, Torin trained her, no more soft tasks, no more pretending. He handed her a stun rifle. You ever used one of these? She raised an eyebrow. Not legally. They trained in silence, shooting targets, learning escape routes, practicing defense codes. Valari wasn't fast, but she was focused, stronger than she looked. By noon, she was hitting targets faster than some soldiers. Torin smiled. You're learning? Valari looked at the gun in her hand and whispered, No, I'm remembering. Later, they activated a drone scanner to search nearby space traffic. The screen flashed red. A small ship, unregistered, was moving slowly above their hangar. Torin narrowed his eyes. They're scanning for life signs. He grabbed a remote and activated the underground jamming field. Can they find us? Valari asked. No, Torin said. Not unless they have someone on the inside. Valari stared at him. Someone like you once were? He looked away. Suddenly, Nilo cried out in his sleep. Valari rushed to him. His eyes were glowing faint, blue, his heartbeat too fast. Torin scanned him. The machine beeped. Neural spikes detected. Energy release building inside. What does that mean? Valari panicked. Torin stepped back, pale. It means his awakening has started. The hangar lights flickered. Nearby screens went black. And then a blast of light erupted from Nilo's body. Everything shook. The walls vibrated. Old metal cracked. And then silence. Nilo's eyes opened slowly. He sat up, calm, breathing slowly, eyes still glowing. Valari held him close. Are you okay? He looked at her and spoke in a voice that was still his but deeper, wiser. They're coming, Mama. And they're very close now. Torin stared at the boy, shaken. What did he just say? Valari held Nilo tighter. He felt them. The boy pointed toward the sky. They have ships, he whispered. They want to take me. Torin stood, his old training kicking in. We need to move. Tonight. Valari looked up. Where? Torin looked down at Nilo, then at her. To the only place they won't follow. A rebel outpost of ex-Safari survivors. People they fear more than anyone else. Valari's eyes widened. You mean my people? Torin nodded. They may not trust you either. But if Nilo is going to survive, he'll need more than just me. He'll need a family that knows how to fight. Above the surface, the small ship that scanned them floated silently. Inside, a figure in black armor tapped their helmet and whispered into a communicator. The child has awakened. Permission to launch full strike? A cold female. Voice answered, permission granted. Destroy everything, but bring the boy alive. The child was the key, and everyone wanted him. Nilo's soft breath echoed in the quiet hangar. The boy lay asleep again, glowing no longer. His small body had released a power none of them understood, yet everyone wanted. Valari sat beside him, holding his hand with both of hers, her eyes filled with fear and fire. Torin stood silently at the far end, watching the scanners. He could still hear Nilo's strange voice in his head. They're coming, Mama, and they're very close. Now, the scanner beeped. Multiple ships, inbound. Fast, silent, not civilian. Torin's hands flew across the console. 5 enemy ships. No ID. Formation suggests mercenaries. Valari stood up quickly. They're here for him. Torin nodded. We don't have much time. He, opened a locked compartment and pulled out a long black case. Inside it was a portable wormhole drive. Illegal, unstable, and deadly if misused. We use this, he said. It'll take us across the sector in seconds. Valari frowned. To where? Torin looked her dead in the eyes. To the one place I said I'd never return. The Rebel Moon. Girl 6. There's a group of old Zafari warriors there, and they might still remember your name. Valari blinked. My name? She hadn't spoken of her past in years, but now with everything unraveling, the truth clawed its way out. I wasn't always just a miner, she said quietly. Before I escaped, I was one of the last trainees of the Zafari Mine Guard. I had psychic control training, until the school was destroyed. Torin raised his eyebrows. Why didn't you tell me? She touched Nilo's forehead. Because I buried that life. I thought I buried everything. She looked up, fierce. But now they want to take my son. And for that, I will become who I was meant to be. The wormhole drive whirred to life. Lights blinked across the chamber. The portal pulsed with energy. Torin lifted Nilo gently, wrapped in a cloak. Valari took one last look at the hangar where her second life had begun. Then they stepped into the light. They landed on Garl 6 in darkness. The Rebel Moon was harsh. Black skies, red rocks, no cities, just old camps hidden underground. Valari and Torin walked carefully, using old Zephyri sign codes scratched into rocks to guide their path. A voice echoed behind them. Turn around, hands up. Dozens of glowing red rifles aimed at them. Zephyri warriors stepped from the shadows, faces covered, ready to shoot. One of them came forward, scanned Valari, and paused. Valari of the Mind Guard? She nodded slowly. The soldier lowered his weapon and saluted. She returns, and she brings the seed. Inside the underground base, firelight flickered across the walls. Torin and Valari sat before a circle of elder rebels. Nilo slept nearby under a psychic stasis field for protection. An elder named Yavrek, his face marked with deep scars, leaned forward. We thought the seed was only a myth. Torin crossed his arms. It's not. Valari nodded. He's, already awakened once. And now they're chasing us across the stars. Yavrek narrowed his eyes. The Crimson Circle, they want to turn him into a weapon, Torin added. Or harvest him. His DNA is hybrid, Zafari and something, older. Valari's voice trembled. You said seed. What does that mean? Yavrek stood and pointed to a hologram on the wall. It showed a great war, humans, aliens, machines, all burning in chaos. Then a child appeared in the vision, glowing like a sun, walking between enemies and making them drop their weapons. The old prophecy speaks of a child born from the broken, who will unite the divided, Yavrek said. He won't fight with weapons, but with presence. Valari whispered, You believe? That's Nilo? Yavrek turned slowly. We know. At that moment a loud alarm rang through the rebel base. Ships, above the moon. Too many to count. Fast, heavy, armed. Torin rushed to the command deck. The screen flashed red. Crimson Circle war cruisers inbound. How did they find us? Valari gasped. Torin cursed. They tracked the wormhole trail. It wasn't clean. Suddenly, Yavrek growled. Someone on this base betrayed us. Everyone froze. Valari turned to Torin. Could it be one of yours? Torin shook his head. I burned every bridge. If there's a traitor, there's Zafari. Outside, the sky above Gurel 6 burned red. Drop pods rained down like fireballs. Mercenaries in black armor emerged with shock rifles and heavy drones. The rebels armed themselves. Torin handed Valari a high-caliber plasma blade. We fight now. She gripped it with steady hands. They want my child? They can come take him. In the chaos, one figure moved through the tunnels unseen. A woman with silver eyes wearing a crimson insignia. She moved fast, avoiding cameras. She wasn't here to fight. She was here to steal. She reached the stasis chamber. There lay Nilo, glowing again in his sleep. The woman smiled. You don't even know what you are, she whispered. She reached out, and a pulse of energy knocked her backward. Nilo's eyes opened. Bright, glowing gold. You're not my mama, he said calmly. The alarms in the room exploded. Back outside, Valari felt a rush in her chest. Something was wrong. She ran toward the chamber, blade in hand. She reached the hallway just in time to see the silver-eyed woman trying again. Valari screamed, Get away from my son! The merc turned, but Nilo's body pulsed again, and this time, the walls cracked. Torin ran to the chamber. The silver-eyed agent lay unconscious on the ground. Valari held Nilo in her arms, her body trembling but her eyes full of power. Torin looked around. The room was glowing, walls humming, gravity pulsing. This is only the beginning, he said. Above them, in orbit, the lead Crimson commander watched the readings from the moon. The power spike from the child's awakening nearly fried their sensors. He stood slowly. Begin planetfall. I want the mother alive. He looked at a holomap showing Earth, Zephyr Prime, and the moons beyond. If we don't get that child soon, the galaxy will no longer fear us. War came to her door, and she wasn't afraid anymore. The rebel moon Gurel 6 was no longer hidden. Above the cracked black skies, 5 Crimson Circle war cruisers hung like monsters, their red lights blinking, ready to strike. On the surface, the old rebel bunkers shook with thunder. Dust rained from ceilings, screens flickered, alarms screamed. Inside the command chamber, Valari stood in the center, her son Nilo at her side. Her hands were steady, her eyes unblinking. She had trained for this once, long ago, but now it was no longer training. It was survival. It was war. Yavrek, the old rebel commander, stepped forward. They've breached the outer ridge. We can't hold them off for long. Torin scanned the tactical map. Red dots poured in like blood. They're not coming to destroy the base, he said. They're coming for him. He looked at Nilo. The boy stood silent, strange symbols glowing across his skin, shining faintly under the skin like stars beneath water. His eyes were calm. Valari bent down. Stay here. Don't move, no matter what happens. You understand? Nilo nodded. Yes. Mama, he didn't cry, he didn't ask questions, he just looked ready. Outside, the Crimson forces advanced with precision. Armored tanks rolled across jagged terrain. Drones flew ahead, mapping targets. Black armored mercenaries moved like machines, faces hidden, rifles charged. A cold voice echoed from their commander's ship. Recover the child. Kill anyone who resists. If the rebels want war, give it to them. Valari stood at the main bunker gate, wearing her old Zafari Mind Guard armor, recovered from a sealed vault. The black and violet metal shimmered with psychic patterns. She activated the psychic-linked blade at her wrist. It hummed softly, singing with energy. Torin stood beside her, rifle ready, armor scratched from years of battles he didn't want to remember. You sure about this? He asked. Valari didn't look at him. They've taken everything from me before. Not this time. She looked toward the battlefield. They want to see a mother fall? Let them try. The first wave hit like a hammer. Drones swarmed the sky, firing energy blasts. Valari leapt forward, flipping between explosions, her blade slicing through two. Bots in midair, Torin provided cover from behind, taking down enemies with sniper focus. The rebels rallied behind them, shouted war cries, fired cannons, shield walls activated, but the enemy kept coming. Every minute another rebel fell. Every step, the Crimson forces pushed closer. Inside the command room, Yavrek growled, "They're not retreating. They're bleeding us on purpose." Suddenly, the power across the base shut down, lights flicked off, defense shields dropped, and a whisper echoed in the darkness. "She is not enough." Valari froze. The voice came from inside her head. Far above, aboard the enemy flagship, a silver-eyed woman stood at the edge of a glowing table. Her body shimmered unnaturally. She was the same assassin who had tried to take Nilo days before. But now, she was merged with something else. Alien tech surrounded her, wires plugged into her brain. Her voice was part machine. "The child cannot be allowed to awaken fully. If he does, every system we control will collapse." She tapped the controls. "Prepare the gravity cannon." Back on Garel 6, Valari stumbled. Her knees buckled. Something pulled at her thoughts. Nilo's voice reached her mind, not through sound, but through emotion. "Mama, the bad one is above. She's connected to the dark metal. She's inside everything." Valari stood. Her heart beat faster. "They're using ancient AI tech," she muttered. "Not just weapons. They're using the old sentient systems." Torin's eyes narrowed. "You mean the ones outlawed after the machine revolt?" She nodded. "They didn't just build weapons. They built gods. Now one of them wants to control my son." Suddenly the sky split open. A blast of white light slammed into the surface, the gravity cannon. It didn't destroy. It crushed. Entire towers buckled. Mountains cracked. Rebel forces were thrown into the air like leaves. Valari was flung back, her blade skidding away. Torin landed hard beside her, coughing blood. The earth shook. Smoke rose. And through the dust walked the silver-eyed woman, her body floating, machines spinning around her. "You cannot protect the future," she said, voice cold. "You can only delay it." Valari tried to stand. She couldn't. But then, a small shadow stepped past. Her Nilo, barefoot, calm, eyes glowing gold. The woman smiled. "You've awakened more than expected." Nilo looked at her. "You want to take me, but you don't understand." "Understand what?" the machine woman asked. "I'm not here to destroy," Nilo whispered. "I'm here to remind the galaxy of what love really is." The silver-eyed assassin raised her hand, but Nilo didn't fight with lasers or fire. He touched the ground. A pulse of pure light exploded outward. Machines stopped moving, weapons dropped, drones froze midair, and for a brief second, even the stars above seemed to blink. The silver-eyed woman screamed as her systems overloaded. Sparks flew from her head. She fell, not dead, but silent. Valari crawled toward Nilo. "Are you okay?" He turned to her, eyes soft now, the glow fading. "I had to stop her," he said. "But I didn't hurt her. I just made her remember." Torin stared in disbelief. "What did you do?" Nilo looked at him. "I showed her a memory. Her mother's face, before she became machine." The battlefield was silent. The enemy's ships began retreating, not because they lost firepower, but because they saw something they couldn't explain, something that made them afraid, not of death, but of change. Later that night, the stars above Garel 6 were calm again. Yavrek stood beside Valari, looking over the broken fields. "You fought like a warrior," he said. "I fought like a mother," she replied. Torin walked over, tired but alive. "They'll come again," Valari nodded. Next time we won't run, we'll be ready. She looked at Nilo, who now slept peacefully in her arms, and whispered, "They thought I was just a single mother." She looked at the horizon. "But now, I'm the beginning of a revolution." The galaxy watched as a single mother changed everything. The rebel moon Garl 6 was silent now. Smoke still floated in the sky. The land was cracked and broken. War had ended, but peace had not yet begun. Torin sat near the cliff edge, watching repair drones rebuild the broken bunkers. His arm was in a sling, his face was bruised. But his mind was clear. He had seen something that day no soldier ever expected to see. Not destruction, but transformation. Below him, Valari walked slowly through the camp, nodding to each wounded rebel, checking on the sick, comforting the tired. No longer just a mother, no longer just a survivor. She was a leader now. Her presence brought silence, respect, strength. Some of the warriors whispered her name as she passed. Others called her something new. The voice of the child. And in the center of the old command base, little Nilo sat cross-legged, surrounded by the Zafari elders. They didn't teach him. They listened. That evening, the outer sensors buzzed. Torin and Valari rushed to the screen. A fleet was approaching, but these were not crimson ships. These bore the flags of the Human Core Alliance, Threlic syndicates, Rethan exiles, and even the Dova priesthood. One by one, their ships began to land. From them came officials, warriors, envoys, some old enemies of the Zephyri, all with one question. "We want to see the boy," Yavrek growled. "They never cared for our kind before." Valari stepped forward. "They don't come for kindness. They come because they're afraid." Torin added, "They saw the light Nilo released. Every major system detected it. Some thought it was a weapon. Others saw a message." He turned to Valari. "Whatever happens next, you must decide what he becomes." In the old council chamber, hundreds gathered. Beings from across the galaxy. Cameras hovered. News channels buzzed. Soldiers stood on edge. And then the doors opened. Valari entered, carrying Nilo in her arms. The room fell silent. She stood on the platform, looked around at the high-ranking leaders who had once rejected her people, and spoke, her voice strong and steady. "You never cared about a single mother before. You never cared about the Zafari. You watched as we starved, hunted, and disappeared from your maps. But now, because my son glowed, you all come running." Some tried to speak. She raised her hand. "He is not your god, not your weapon, not your project." She placed Nilo gently on his feet. "He is my son." Nilo walked forward, calm, small. Yet all eyes followed him. He looked at the room, then closed his eyes, and without a word, shared a memory with everyone. In an instant, every being in that room saw what he saw. His mother begging for jobs, crying in the dark, holding his fevered body, and sleeping beside broken machines. In silence, then came the memory of Torin offering her a job, believing in her, fighting beside her. Then the final vision. Crimson forces crushing cities, cloning children, erasing names and faces from history. The vision ended, and Nilo simply said, "Now you remember." Many cried. Some fell to their knees, even hardened. Generals were silent. Valari walked forward again. "We don't want pity. We want a future. Not just for Nilo, for every child who still sleeps hungry, for every mother who begs to be seen. You call yourselves leaders. Prove it. Or this galaxy will belong to those who never had a voice." What followed became known as the Moon Accords. A new treaty signed by human and alien leaders. Crimson Circle operations were banned across 12 systems. Zephyri colonies were granted full rights again. Hybrid children were protected under galactic law. And at the heart of it all stood a child, and the mother who refused to give him up. Later that week, Torin walked with Valari along the ridge of Garl 6. You should take the council seat, he said. She smiled softly. I didn't come here to lead nations. Torin looked at her. But you already did. Valari turned to look at the stars. I just wanted to be seen, she said. And now they're all looking, he smiled. So what now? She laughed gently. I raise my son. I teach him love. And maybe I teach others too. As night fell, Nilo stood on the hilltop alone, watching the stars blink above him. He closed his eyes and whispered, not with words, but with heart. If you are lost, I see you. If you are hurt, I feel you. If you are hiding, come home. Across distant planets, small children woke in their sleep. They had never met Nilo, but somehow, they smiled. In the end, the galaxy didn't remember the names of warships or battle leaders. It remembered a tired mother who didn't give up. It remembered the child who spoke without violence, and it remembered the moment when the universe changed, because someone finally gave her a chance.